today in today's environment, the internet's getting used pretty heavily, so it's spotty in places. But Duke, I do appreciate the introduction there, and I think for those who couldn't hear clearly what Duke was saying, we're presenting this today because this is one of the biggest concerns that our customers have come to us saying, listen, we have critical infrastructure. We're running power plants. We're running chemical plants, oil and gas operations. We need to make sure that we can run, but at the same time, we've got a lot of constraints that we have to work around. So what we wanted to do is put this out so that our customers are clearly aware of what ABB can do to provide ongoing support during these crazy times, so to speak. This morning, I'm going to go through a quick safety moment. Then we'll do a quick review of our current situation, and then talk about two technologies that we think are probably most prevalent or most useful to our customers in terms of getting remote support. And then we'll wrap it up. And as Duke had said, enter your questions into the Q&A area, and you can enter those questions as we're going through the presentation. But we will have time at the end to wrap that up. The presentation itself will run about 35 minutes. Which will leave plenty of time for questions and discussion, and then we'll address your questions at that point. But feel free to type them in as we go. So first, the safety moment. I know many people are probably tired of hearing this, but it can't be said enough. I mean, our economy is going through a pretty tough stretch right now because it's important that we all stay healthy. This whole exercise in social distancing is about making sure that we can stay healthy and come out of this on the other side. So the presentation that I have here is from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, but very simple things that we have to remember to do. Put distance between ourselves and others, avoid that close contact, cover our mouths, using a tissue preferably, and disposing of that tissue is the best way to do it. Second best way would is cough or sneeze into your elbow. We certainly want to avoid touching our eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. So, clean and disinfect the frequency of the surface that you are touching on a frequent basis. If you're sick, stay home. Wear a face mask. Do your part to keep it contained. And it can't be said enough. They said the number one solution is to wash your hands and use sanitizer only as a supplement, but washing your hands is the best method, and stay isolated from folks. So as long as we're in these crazy times, I just want to make sure that everyone stays healthy. So that's my safety moment for today. So when you think about where we're at right now, I mean, a lot of us are facing travel bans being imposed by the government. Non-essential travel has got to be suspended. Many of our customers have got visitor restrictions. We can't let people into our facilities because we want to make sure that we don't accidentally infect our employees. The governments are issuing, lockdown and shelter-in-place orders. We're all practicing social distancing, but the key point here is that most everyone on this call is running a plant that is a critical, essential, it's either a product or infrastructure, a power plant, a wastewater treatment plant, a pharmaceutical plant. All these plants must keep running, and ABB is here as well to support you to make sure that you can keep running. And so with that being said, we have probably a higher need than average for availability and uptime. So time is of the essence, especially when we get to a point where we need expertise, and that expertise may not be locally available, or may be restricted in travel, or may be restricted from coming on site. So and there's unknowns, and these things are changing sometimes on a daily or hourly basis. So we're in a unique time right now, and this is the reason we're bringing this presentation to light, is so that we can share with our customers the options that exist. In ordinary times, assuming we get beyond this time, there's still a need to improve how we operate our businesses, whether we're trying to remotely repair things that are in distant locations that are hard to get to. We need to work more closely with the experts, that is the person in the field, the technician, the engineer, working with their support staff, let's say back in their office or back in their corporate office, working closely with ABB in our offices, and being able to bring teams of people together quickly so that we can collaborate and solve problems faster. We can get equipment up and running faster. We can alleviate situations before they happen. So even if we didn't have all the conditions in place that we have today, these challenges persist, before this happened, while this is happening, and these will persist even after all this is happening. So the whole secret here is collaboration and working with our customers to get things done faster and keep these plants up and running. So that's really the business driver, if you will, behind why we have these offerings. So let's talk about the offerings that are on the table today. So for our existing customer base, most of these should be familiar to you. If you're not using all these things, we can talk about them later. But you know, at the very fundamental level, you still have available to you your telephone and email technical support that you're able to pick up the phone and call the service line and get help that way. We still have field service engineers. Some of our customers are in some cases creating special instances where they will let field service engineers on site. But at the same time, a lot of our customers are saying they can't come on site. So the technologies that I'm going to talk about in red really facilitate the ability for them to continue to service you, even though they may not be allowed to come on site. Some of our customers in our proactive accounts or our proactive care contracts, if you will, have what are called technical account managers. And these are additional support resources that they can reach out to, again, via telephone, via email. And these folks can also take advantage of the opportunities we're talking about in red. But I don't want to talk about really the first three things. I think most everyone is fairly familiar with those. And if you're not, I would encourage you to reach out to your account manager to talk about those. But today's presentation is going to focus on two items that I think are going to be of particular interest. And the first is remote access link. And this really takes on two different flavors. We have what we call the remote access portal, which gives us the ability to create a secure connection into our customers' control system to provide that remote support. And the other instance of that is sometimes utilizing our customers' VPN, which is usable and acceptable, but is perhaps a less desirable offering, but is available. And then finally, I want to introduce today a new platform which is really exciting and really augments our ability to collaborate with our customers, and that's called Remote Insights. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. So first, let's talk about Remote Access Link. The Remote Access Link really takes on, as I said before, two different flavors. And the first platform is we call RAP, Remote Access Platform. It's an ABB platform. It's been in existence for a long, long time. It allows us to provide a direct, secure connection to our customer going through multiple firewalls. And you see the architecture sketch in a few moments. You'll start to see or appreciate how secure this solution is. And it's easy to use. In other words, we can use it not only with our technical support staff in the service centers, but we can also use it with our field service engineers when we're working remotely from one site or another. The other platform, again, is the idea of some of our customers say, listen, we really want a preferred solution is to use our IT or our own internal VPN. And certainly we can work with our customers to do that, and we have some secure ways of doing that. So while it's not the preferred solution, it is a solution that we use with a number of our customers to provide that remote service. So first, let's talk about the RAP platform. The nice thing about this is this platform you can see here has a service center, a technical support person that you would talk to on the phone, and then a field service engineer who could be located anywhere. They could be in a remote office, they could be at a remote customer site, they could even be in a hotel room if necessary, but this provides a nice secure methodology for them to connect to a customer system and provide this support. This basically, the basic platform allows for connectivity up to 5 simultaneous users with 5 computers. The nice thing about this is it provides an audit trail, the ability to transfer files, and it's accessible for customers to get at. And as we talked about before, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the benefits, but it really does give us the ability to drill in very quickly, look and see what's going on in the control systems, do the things that are necessary to fix the problems, identify the problems, fix the problems, and get the plant back up and running. But the most important thing here is that this is a very secure connection. Security is of utmost importance to all of our customers, depending on what industry you're in. But we have a lot of steps in here, and I'm going to go through those in a moment here to show you how we create this. And the nice thing about this is that the customer is always in charge. When we set up a connection like this, this isn't a license for ABB to go in a control system anytime they want. It is something that is supervised and turned on by the customer, if you will. So let's look at the architecture. If you look down here in this space, this generally is the customer's control system. And so in that way, the customer basically has a server running down here with the wrap application on the inside of a firewall, and then that firewall connects to the outside internet. Our service center, as you can see, is highly segmented in that we've got an external firewall. We have a communication server, which is separate and distinct from the application servers that really support the wrap applications. Those are separated by our firewall. And then finally, the ABB experts who are providing the service have to log in through a firewall to get there. So you can see that there's a very, very robust, very secure platform to facilitate this communication and connection to your control systems. That is the base offering. Now, there's some additional things that we can do as options. We have, for example, the ability to load what we call a virtual support engineer that could be loaded on the server down here and continuously look at what's going on, looking for challenges, problems, and identifying those and sending those as outbound communication back to ABB so that we can alert you and we can assist in solving those problems. This is something that some customers elect to use and other customers don't. But again, it comes down to what your specific needs are. Most customers use the basic wrap application just so they can get an expert to connect into their control system in a secure fashion. So let's talk about how that security works. An ABB engineer who is providing this support first must log into their laptop. Once they've logged into their laptop, then they must log into the ABB network. Once they're connected to the ABB network, then they have to log into the wrap service center. So certain engineers are provided the ability to only connect to certain customers. So the nice thing about this now is that not any ABB employee can get into any customer site. That ABB engineer has to be assigned to that customer and assigned to that site to even be able to get into the wrap solution. So you can see before we've even gone through the internet, you have a very secure platform here showing that that the right people in ABB are connecting to the right customers. And then basically what happens then is that the customer is the person who determines who can come in and who can and not come in, and then who can provide certain functions. Some functions can be blocked, other functions can be allowed, other functions can be allowed with supervision. So the customer is the person, or is the one who really has control of the connection and what happens in that connection. So it is a supervised connection, which gives a lot of people a great deal of comfort. Once we've gotten through that layer of authentication, finally, we have to log into the control system itself with its credentials. So you can see multiple layers provides for a very robust solution. Now, this is just one of the dashboards. I don't want to go into a lot of detail here, but this is what a service engineer at ABB would see in looking at the different systems that they have access to, and also looking at the alarms and items that are coming in from those systems if they're so connected. Also, I mentioned before that the user has the ability to go in on a function-by-function basis and determine, if that particular file, do you allow the service engineers to get files? You can block that function. You can enable that function and say, hey, listen, they can do any of these things. Or you can say they only can do this with supervision and permission. So again, the key point here is that the user is in control of what happens. So that's kind of just a quick snapshot of the wrap solution. Now I'm going to shift gears and talk briefly about the secure VPN solution. Well, the important thing to recognize here is that wrap is built as an OT, an operational technology solution. The VPN is more of an IT solution, and sometimes our customers working with their IT departments find it easier to use the existing IT-approved solution. And so we have methods in place to kind of make sure that that's a very robust connection. It doesn't necessarily have all the traceability and all of the elements that the wrap solution does. And I'll talk a little bit more about those differences in a few slides. But generally speaking, you'll see here that the customer provides their VPN, and then what we will typically do is set up for each customer a dedicated VPN server. So effectively, what we're providing to our customers is a point-to-point VPN. So the customer's network is here with their controls through their firewall, their DMZ, or whatever the case may be. We establish a point-to-point VPN on a virtual machine in our ABB Service Center. Their virtual machine is dedicated specifically to that customer and to that customer's VPN. So now, as we get in support, whether we have folks who are sitting in the office, folks at the hotel, or the airport, or wherever the field service engineers are, they go through their normal authentication process to get into the ABB network, and then they again are granted access on a need-to-know or as-needed basis to the customers that they support. So not every service engineer has access to every virtual machine, only the customers that he or she supports. And again, we go through a similar type of authentication. Again, ABB engineer logs into their laptop, they log into the ABB network, they log into that specific dedicated VPN server, and then we're going through the customer's VPN software and ultimately authenticating to the control system. So you can see we do provide, again, multiple layers to make it as secure as possible. But what I want to do now is kind of talk about the differences. So one of the things to keep in mind is that as I mentioned before, the VPN solution is an IT solution. It's not designed to the standards. For those of you who are familiar with the Department of Homeland Security, there's an organization, CISA, that actually maintains standards for industrial control systems and how they should be secured from a cyber perspective. And so going through those rigorous steps and those rigorous audit capabilities, the WRAP solution is designed specifically to those standards and guidance. There is a control scheme in place. They are cybersecurity compliant. They follow the recommendations in the control system certification from the Department of Homeland Security. And again, this is the more recommended solution. But we have and do support this for our other customers. It doesn't have some of the traceability and the access control that the ICS certs are calling for. But both options are available when our customers need either a tech support person or a field engineer to connect into a control system. So the process for this to happen is that, again, typically what happens is the customer will identify a problem. They will pick up the phone and initiate the conversation, either with the field service coordinator or with the tech support, saying, I've got a problem, I need some help. At that point, the determination would be for the ABB engineer, once he or she is assigned, to reach out to the customer to say, listen, I'm ready to start working on your problem now. Let's establish a connection. So the engineer would then log into the WRAP or VPN portal from our end, the ABB end, and then wait for you as the engineer or the customer at the other end to allow that connection to finish. And then we can then move into the actual connection. So that's particularly how that happens. Now, before I go on to that, I just want to point out a couple of things. That this platform is really secure in that it's not platform specific. So a number of our customers use different ABB control platforms, and this WRAP solution will work with any and all of those. So that is something to keep in mind as well. That it doesn't really matter which platforms you're running. This platform is really agnostic and will allow a service engineer to reach into any of those systems. Now moving on, I'd like to talk next about remote insights. And so think about the way we traditionally talk or traditionally get tech support. Is we pick up the phone and we call someone to explain or try to describe our problem. And oftentimes this conversation is voice oriented only. With remote insights, we now add the ability for that particular support person to get a visual view of what you as the customer are seeing. And so if you think about, for example, we just talked about WRAP, we can log into a control system, we can look at specific flags, we can look at specific capabilities, what's going on in the control system, but sometimes we can't see hardware in the field, or we can't see connections, or we can't see LEDs that are flashing. So typically there'd be a conversation back and forth. Describe what you're seeing. Let me see. Or snap a picture and email it to me. And then it's static and it's back and forth, and the support engineer is trying to describe what's going on. In very simple terms, with the remote insights, we can stream while we're talking to you live. We can stream live video, and the support engineer can say, hey, look at this area here, or look at that connector, or check this fuse, and so we have the ability to provide augmentation reality back to the customer, or instruction on how to solve that problem faster. Before I go too much further talking about what we're talking about here with augmented reality, I'd like to just kind of stop and step aside for one slide and really kind of talk about these terms, because when we were talking about this, we heard the term virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, so I thought it'd be worthwhile to just take a slide to really explain what that means. All of these different types of reality, quote unquote, are really what we call extended reality. And so on the left, when you think about virtual reality, this is what we think about when you, for example, in the gamers world, it's a completely digital recreation of what's going on. You put on goggles and you really can't see the real world around you. In fact, from that perspective, it's actually dangerous, especially if you're operating in a plant. You don't want a virtual representation of what you're seeing. This might be good for playing a game, but it's not a safe way to proceed into a plant. The next type of reality is augmented reality, and this is where now we are taking reality as we see it, and we're layering into that view of reality additional information, digital overlay. So in this case, you can see the office, you can see the duck in the office, you can see information about that duck, and you can interact with that world completely. Now, moving over to mixed reality is now where you're taking some of this digitally recreated elements, you're trying to superimpose those into the environment. At the same time, you're trying to interact with that environment. So you can see in augmented, the duck is kind of translucent. You can see through it a little bit. In mixed reality, the duck becomes part of the scene, even though it's not physically there, it's there virtually. So it sort of becomes a mixed reality. So the reason I bring this up is most of what I'm going to talk about the rest of the way forward is focused on that center square, and that's augmented reality. The ability for you to see the world in a real situation, and also be able to interact with that in a interactive way, so you can get information. So the nice thing about this, we talked about this particular application as it pertains to remote support, which is really the topic we're talking about here today, is remote support. But when you step back and you look at the applications, you can see that this ability to use the augmented reality is really can be helpful throughout the entire project lifecycle. Whether we're back here designing, trying to look at designs, trying to look at drawings, or we're in the construction phase and we're trying to figure out how a particular element should be wired. Should I use this pin or should I use that pin? Even when you're in the operating business, you're walking out to a site, you're looking at a particular gauge or instrument that maybe is not necessarily wired into the control system. This can also help from a safety perspective. When you're maintaining your plant, we can look at things that, again, we can either look at screens like we could with the remote access platform, but more importantly here, we can go look at things that you see in the field and then take that into training. So getting beyond these quote unquote extraordinary times where we're trying to figure out how the best way to support our customers remotely, this tool really does provide a tremendous amount of opportunity over the entire life cycle for us to collaborate and work together, when we get on the other side of this pandemic, so to speak. There's a number of benefits here. You'll see the benefits really are similar to those that we have with the remote access platform and the VPN, in that we're connecting our customers, engineers, technicians to experts more quickly. This platform allows you to have two-way audio and one-way video. So basically, the expert can see what the person in the field sees. The expert can provide instructions or guidance or point people in the right direction on those screens to really augment and make that communication more effective. you think about it, if you're just using it, I mean, we've all been there trying to explain to someone on the other end of the phone what we're seeing and what message is on the screen or what light is blinking on this particular module, and trying to paint a picture so that the engineer or the expert at the other end can remember exactly what that module looks like and look at a picture. Now we're looking live at what the field person is looking at, and it really does speed up the ability to assimilate and understand, okay, I see what the problem is, here's what we need to do. You're getting to a fix much faster. Here are 3 examples where this platform has been deployed and some of the benefits that have been derived. We have a mining customer out in Europe, and as I'm sure you can well imagine, most mining sites aren't a short drive away. They're often in remote locations. So you think about that, you have a problem on site. It's probably more drive time to get to that site or travel time than it is perhaps to even fix the problem. So with that being said, this platform was able to save downtime by 60%, and they saved on the order of $2 million a year simply by being able to get experts to look at the process quickly and also to be able to fix the problem without having to lose a lot of travel time. The second example here is in Australia, and boy, we've all fought these intermittent problems before. I mean, especially think about your own car. You hear a noise or you see a problem in the process, and you call the technician in or the engineer to come in. ABB engineer spends a day there, doesn't experience the problem. As soon as he or she leaves, it manifests itself again. So at that point, being able to pull in an expert, say, hey, we're seeing it right now. Can you look at what we're looking at? Now, while that intermittent problem is happening, we can have the expert look at the conditions, see what you're seeing, and be able to offer the fix. And that's a really powerful way. So they had a problem that had been lingering for 3 years that they were finally able to solve in 3 days once they got the remote expert on at the same time that the incident was happening. So that was another great example. And then finally, in the pulp and paper industry over in the UK, they basically reduced repair time. And this really came down to what I've been talking about this whole time is when the expert can see what the person in the field sees and they can have a more effective communication, now they have a better understanding of problem, quicker time to resolution, and it manifested itself there. So that's another great example of how that works. The nice thing about this platform, excuse me one second. The nice thing about this platform is it's very easy to get up and running. It supports the standard, I shouldn't say standard, but the most popular headsets out there, and whether you're using the RealWear or the Microsoft HoloLens, it supports those so you have hands-free operation. But let's assume that you need support like next week. The nice thing about this is you can take your standard iOS devices, your standard Android devices, your standard Windows 10 device. I mean, we all have these in our hands in our offices right now. With a simple click, you can go to a website. You can go to the Apple Store, you can go to Google Play, or you can go to the Microsoft App Center. You can download this application to your particular phone. Once you have the ABB license in hand, you can load it on that phone, and then you're up and running. So you don't have to wait and go buy a headset. You can use the cell phones and the devices you have readily available to you. And literally the turnaround time from the time you decide you want to get started with this, I mean, it's literally a couple of days to get this stuff up and running and get you connected back to the main office. So this is a nice thing about this. It's very quick, very easy to set up. And it also uses, again, standard off-the-shelf technology, and you can go to the standard application stores to get this downloaded. Nice thing here, too, is that in addition to being a communication device, it also has the ability to capture and to utilize incidents. So, for example, we can keep a history of a particular case, and here's the past incidents that we've had related to this problem, and here's the past communications we've had, and if we've frozen and saved particular pictures or particular video streams, now we've got some documentation here that allows us to not only keep a history of what we've done for future learning and continuous improvement, but we also have the ability to bring more people into the conversation if necessary. So in summary, when you look at what this is all about, the same thing that RAP is about, it's reducing downtime. We're trying to help you solve problems quickly. we're trying to solve problems remotely. We want to get our customers in contact with the right experts at the right time to solve those problems. And if it has to be more than one expert, then we can get those folks connected together as well. It's really about improving safety. I mean, we want to make sure that everyone's aware of what the situation they're in. We want to make sure that they're clearly operating in a safe way. But by us being able to see what you're seeing, it really does help our engineers move in that direction. When you think about this, it really does extend asset life because, the quality of the repair, this is not just limited to control systems. This could be a drive. This could be a motor. This could be a piece of switchgear. This could be something that's out in the field that is not something you can necessarily connect to with RAP. But you can walk out to the field with your cell phone, point it at the relay, point it at the device, and start to have a better quality conversation around what's going on with that device so that we can get it fixed faster. So this is the process that we would typically follow, and you'll see that it's very similar to the RAP process. Ordinarily, an equipment malfunction is identified either by an operations person or maybe the technician's already gotten engaged. In some cases, there may be a work order issued. The technician on site engages, tries to determine what the problem is. If they can fix him or herself, they'll go ahead and do that, but oftentimes they'll contact the support center, say, hey, I need some help from ABB. We will work to triage that with you, maybe something simple. In that case, we would close the case as we would today and say, just do this or do that, and you're off and running. However, when we get to that situation where we need to escalate it to someone, when I have somebody who needs to pull in, say, a level 2 or level 3 tech support, or we need to pull in a field service engineer or a TAM, now we can say, listen, let's pull out the remote insights. Let's go ahead and have the technician basically request a call from the expert. The expert would see that call coming in, pick it up. They would establish the voice connection. They would establish the video connection and start to look at what's going on. And then as time goes on, maybe they can solve the problem themselves. Maybe they need to bring in a few other experts. We can aggregate those or collaborate those folks into the same call. And then basically, again, as I mentioned before, all that information, the whole discussion is captured, and now we can use that and save that for future incidents. So as I mentioned before, standard off-the-shelf platforms that you have in your hands today, you can go to the standard locations and download this information and do that. And again, once you have this loaded on your phone, all you need to do is get an ABB license, and that will connect you to the platform and connect you to the experts. So I'm going to wrap up now, and then we'll start moving into questions after that. As I mentioned before, there's a number of different ways that you can get service and support from ABB. Today we talked specifically about really adding some of these technologies, the remote access link, whether it's the RAP server or it's the virtual private network and the remote insights. All of these services can be offered to you in a new or existing ABB industry care contract. So if you have an existing contract, some of our customers are already using RAP, but they use it on an infrequent basis. Remember that it's available to you, especially during these challenging times. This is why we have it. We want to make sure that it's getting used. If it's something that you would like to add, either the remote insight or adding the RAP or adding both, because they do complement each other, it's very easy to either add to an existing contract, or we can set up a new contract, or you can have, the easiest way to get started is to reach out to your account managers, get them engaged, have a quick conversation about your specific needs. We can come back to you with the proposal and get this up and running literally within a few days. So this is something that, again, we're here to support. We understand that you have to keep your plants running. We understand the challenges that we're all facing, and ABB is really dedicated to making sure that we've got all the right technologies in place to keep our experts working with your team so that you guys can continue to run your plants. So that's kind of a quick summary of what I wanted to talk about today. So I think we're at a point now where perhaps we can move over to the question period, and I think there's some questions coming in here. So I know, Duke, is your audio back yet, or is someone else going to take the questions?